We're going to start working on our 5 flyers in InDesign. The first thing we need to do is navigate to our assignment inside of Blackboard and read over the instructions, look at the examples, look at the submission instructions. You'll notice that I've provided files that will help you complete the first 2 flyers. Flyers 3 through 5 you'll need to complete on your own, following the specifications, the subject matter, and any instructions or other requirements that are written in the assignment. So let's start working on our assignment. The first thing we're going to do is to download our files. And then go ahead and make an assignment folder. So create a new folder, name it with your last name underscore VCD 1015 underscore 02 because this is assignment 02. If you are in the full week course, it's assignment 03. Inside of our assignment folder, we're going to create a file structure. Before we do that, we need to locate our zip files that we downloaded, drag them into our assignment folder, double click to open. We're not going to need the original zip files, so you can go ahead and move those to the trash. And then we're going to rename these folders so that they match the file submission example in Blackboard. So we need one folder for each one of our 5 flyers. We're going to go ahead and rename the folder that contains the images for flyer 1 as follows. So your last name, the week, in this case 02, ID for InDesign, flyer 01. For the folder with the images for flyer 02, we're going to do the same thing. So we have a file naming convention that we're going to follow, and we want to be consistent with that. So now we need to create 3 more folders. So we're going to end up with one folder for each of our 5 flyers. And if we take a look inside of these folders, we can see that the 2 folders that we unzipped, the ones for flyers 1 and 2, have some files inside. The ones that we created for flyers 3 through 5 are currently empty. So what we want to do for each one of these folders is create a resources folder where we can store images, text, anything else that we are going to place onto our flyer. So let's go ahead and do that. Create a resources folder for flyer 1 and drag the files for flyer 1 inside of that resources folder. Create a resources folder for flyer 2. Drag the files provided for flyer 2 inside of the resources folder. and then go ahead and do the same thing for each of the other 3 folders. So that each one of your 5 folders has a resources folder. Again, only the resources folders inside of the folders for flyers 1 and 2 are going to have anything inside of them at this point. When you work on flyers 3 through 5 on your own, when you gather images and text, any other type of resource that you need, you're going to store those inside of the resources folder for the particular flyer that you are going to be working on. Now we're ready to start working on our first flyer. So let's open InDesign. If this is the first time you've opened your copy of InDesign, then you probably need to go to Preferences, navigate to Units and Increments, and change your horizontal and vertical rulers to inches. Next, we need to go to New, make sure that we're on Print Intent, make sure that our page size is letter, and make sure that our margins are at 0.5 inches. Hit OK. Next, you'll want to choose Essentials for your workspace. We want our swatches panel to be open. So let's choose the tab for swatches, drag that tab off so that it's floating in our workspace, and then click the button for CC Libraries to close the other panels. Now what we're going to do is import a background image for our flyer. So let's go to File, Place, navigate to our Flyer 1 folder, go to our Resources folder, and choose the background.jpg image. Click to place, and you'll notice that this image is very large. It's much larger than our document. So we're going to need to zoom out a bit so that we can resize our image. So in order to resize our image proportionally, we need to hold the Shift key and the Command key down at the same time and drag from the corner. Now we're going to have to do this more than once because it's such a large image. Okay, and just resize it until it fits within the margin guides that are set. And it should snap to those guides. So we have our background image with a 1/2 inch margin all around. Next, we're going to type in our title. So choose the Type tool, click and drag diagonally to create a text box, and type in Open Mic Night. Let's resize that type to 60 points, and you'll notice that our type doesn't quite fit inside of the text box. So we're going to change the font to a more condensed font that should fit within the space. And one thing I can do is I can drag my text box to the right a little bit, but I'd have to drag it quite far in order for our text to be able to completely fit inside the box, and it still won't fit on our page. So we really ought to choose another type of font. So we're going to use a font called League Gothic. Now, if you don't have League Gothic installed on your computer, we're going to add the font from Typekit. Now mine is already added here, but I'm going to show you how you would go about doing that. You only have access to Typekit if you are logged into a computer in which you're logged into the Adobe Creative Cloud. So you have to have an account. If you don't have an account, then you need to find a font that's going to be similar and get somewhat of the same effect as League Gothic. But if you do have Typekit available, and it will only be available if you are logged into your Adobe Creative Cloud account, you're going to want to click the font menu and then click the Add Fonts from Typekit button. Now, when you do that, Typekit should open up in a browser window. And in order to find the font that you're looking for, the simplest way is to just go ahead and do a search. So we're going to search for League Gothic. League Gothic appears. And then you can go ahead and just click on the button to sync. Now, I already have League Gothic Italic, League Gothic Regular synced to my account, and those are the fonts that we're going to use. But if yours is not synced, you'll have this green synced button. Okay, once you have League Gothic Italic and Regular synced, then you can close out of this browser window, go back to your document, and League Gothic should appear in your TK in your font menu if you were to click on the TK button. So your font menu shows every font that's installed on your computer, and if League Gothic is installed, you could certainly just browse through your font list and go find it. So here's League Gothic. But if you click on the TK button, it's going to filter out all the fonts that are installed on your computer except for the ones that you have synced from Typekit. So I have a few here that are synced from Typekit. League Gothic is one of them. I'm going to go ahead and choose that, and that changes my typeface in my headline to the correct font. We're going to italicize this, and notice how when I change it to League Gothic, it's condensed or narrow enough of a font that it will fit comfortably on my layout. Okay, next thing we're going to do is make a black rectangle frame and drag out a box. And yours should be in approximately the same position, same size as mine. We're going to go to our swatches panel and we're going to choose black to fill it. And I'll just make a few adjustments here. Okay, and then we're going to add some informational text to our flyer. We're going to add the text on top of our box because we have a complex background and smaller text is going to be hard to read. So we need to go back to our type tool, click on top of our black rectangle, and drag out a text frame. Now we want to leave a bit of a margin. We don't want our text to go right to the edge of our black background. And you'll see once we drag out the text frame, there's a blinking cursor at the upper left-hand corner. So if we were to start typing, Right now the text is black, that's the default, and black on black, we're not going to be able to read that, so we can hit Command A, choose paper, which is equivalent to white, and I just typed some nonsense in there. But we're actually going to copy and paste some text that was provided for us. So we need to go back to our Flyer 1 folder, go to the Resources folder, double-click the Event Details text document, select all the text, Command C to copy, go back to InDesign, and Command V to paste over our nonsense text, and then we're going to Command A to select all, choose 14 points. Let's choose the font called Railway, and again, if you don't have this installed on your computer, you can install it through Typekit. If you do not have Typekit available, then you'll need to find a similar kind of font. We're going to highlight the last paragraph and choose bold. Okay, next thing we want to do is we need to change the color of our headline font because it's really hard to read. Black or a dark colored text on a dark or complex background is really just not going to work. So we're going to sample some colors from our background image. Let's click on the Color Theme tool and then click somewhere on our background image. When we do that, we get a little swatch panel that comes up that gives us a selection of colors that have been sampled from the background image. So since we have a dark background, we need a lighter color text in order to be able to read it. So I'm going to choose this lighter kind of tan looking text, and I'm going to add it to my swatches panel. I'm doing that by clicking and dragging the swatch, letting go over the swatches panel, and I have my swatch that appears. Let's apply this color to our Open Mic Night text. So I clicked inside the text box with the text tool, Command A to select all, and then click our swatch, and our text will change color. Alright, so that looks pretty good so far. We have some object frames here that are showing us the dimensions and locations of some things that are invisible, that are not going to be showing up in our final layout. So for example, we have a text frame that our headline is located inside of, and the text frame itself is not going to print or output when we save it as a PDF, but it's here for our knowledge. It's our so that we understand how our page is constructed, and we can change the dimensions of this box if we wanted to. I mean, we can click on it and modify it, but sometimes it's helpful to be able to get a sense of what your layout looks like as you're working on it and hiding these guidelines. So an easy way to do that is to go to the View menu and choose Extras and choose Hide Frame Edges, and that way we can get a better sense of what our design is actually looking like. We can also zoom out so that we can get an overall sense of our layout. Okay, so we only have one more thing that we need to add to our layout, and that is a QR code. So a QR code is a type of barcode that can be scanned using an app on an iPhone or some other type of device that will take the user to a website that would have some more information about this event. So right now our flyer, it has some basic information, but it's not really super in-depth. Maybe there's some pricing information, or maybe there's a um, sign up newsletter or something like that that we would want to possibly find. So in order to create our QR code, the first thing we need to do is click on the rectangle frame tool, go to the bottom left-hand corner of our layout, and click and drag a square-shaped frame. Now, in order to lock your frame to a square, you'd want to hold the Shift key down while you're dragging. And you can adjust the size of your box by going to the selection tool, again holding the Shift key down, and maybe you need to make some adjustments, make it larger, smaller. Maybe you need to move it around a little bit to make it more precise, but make sure that if you have an element of your design like this, you want to be consistent in your spacing. So you want an equal amount of space between the box and the margin. Okay, and next thing we can do is go ahead and generate our QR code. So click with our rectangle frame still selected, go to the object menu, choose generate QR code. For type, we want web hyperlink. For this flyer, we want the URL to be the web page that has the particular tutorial that this flyer is coming from. So it's InDesign-open-mic.tumblr.com. Make sure you have http://. Click OK, and our QR code automatically centers inside of our rectangle frame. And let's just choose paper for the color, and maybe I'll just make this a little bit smaller. So once you have your barcode image inside, you'll need to hold Shift and Command in order to resize them together. Resize the barcode and also your rectangle frame. Okay, so we want it large enough that it's going to be easy to scan, but not so huge that it's obscuring our image, or it's an overwhelming element. And just double check that everything looks like the way you want it, and we're finished with flyer number 1. So we need to go ahead and save. Go to File, Save As. Make sure that you are inside of your assignment folder. You're in the Flyer 1 folder that you created, but not inside of your resource folder. So we're not going to save this in the resource folder. We're going to save it next to it. So the name of our flyer is going to be your last name underscore ID for InDesign. So ID flyer underscore 01, because it's flyer 1. Hit save. And now what we need to do is to create a PDF file for our document. A PDF file is the type of file that things like images and fonts and any other kind of element is going to be embedded into our document so that we don't need to have them linked. So that would mean that anybody on any type of computer should be able to open your file even if they don't have InDesign installed. So for example, the president of a company that maybe is your client, they're not going to have Adobe Creative Suite installed. They're not going to have Railway or League Gothic installed. And if that were the case and you sent them the original InDesign document, it's just not going to display correctly. They probably wouldn't even be able to open the file type. So PDF is an Adobe file, and it stands for Portable Document Format. So we need to have our original InDesign file, and we also need to have a PDF of our file. So let's go to File, Adobe PDF Presets, choose High Quality Print, and then just save. Make sure that you're saving it inside of the same folder as your original InDesign document. Hit Export. Okay, now what we want to do is just double check that our PDF will open up and everything is in the right place. So I'm going back to my assignment folder. I see that I have my Flyer 1 folder. Inside is my InDesign document, my PDF, and then there's another type of file here that we don't need to worry about. Double click the flyer and it opens up in Adobe Reader. You just want to double check that everything looks right. What you would want to do also is if you have an iPhone or another type of smartphone with an app installed that would read barcodes, especially a QR code, you can try it out and make sure that this barcode works. If it doesn't work, you're going to want to go back into your original InDesign document, try it again. Possibly the link is incorrect or something's missing. So that's Flyer 1.